Hi and welcome to this screencast. This screencast is part of your blended day for Tuesday, March the 24th. And as I told you in class today, we're going to start a new chapter today, and this is chapter 11, section 1, if you're labeling your notes that way. So again, this is chapter 11, section 1, and the topic of today's screencast is the Byzantine Empire, And as we talked about today in class, the Byzantine Empire is basically the eastern part of the Roman Empire. So if we take a look at this map here, this is obviously Rome here, and Rome has fallen. The western part of the Roman Empire has fallen, but the eastern part, all this area right here, is surviving and thriving to some extent. The Byzantine Empire is going to be a very powerful empire for parts of the Middle Ages. So we're going to take a look at the Byzantine Empire today. That's our main topic. So as with all screencasts, follow along, take good notes, and if you have any questions, jolt those down, and I'll be happy to answer those in class on your block day. So first of all, let's take a look at how the Byzantine Empire was different compared to the Western Roman part. So there are a few differences, kind of general differences here that we can take a look at here. So if we look at these differences, first of all, the language was different, and this happens around the 500s CE, And whereas in the West they used Latin, in the East we use Greek. So Greek was used as the main language in the Byzantine Empire, and that's had not been the case in the western part of the Roman Empire, where of course Latin had been used. So that's one difference. Another difference is that there was a different organization of the church. So there's a different organization of the church, and as you should know by now, in the West, the Pope was in charge of the church. In the East, the Patriarch is in charge. So they have a different title for the head of the church. He's called the Patriarch in the Byzantine Empire. And that's not the only difference, because the Patriarch was actually elected by the emperor. So as you can see, in reality then, the emperor is the one in charge of the church in the Byzantine Empire. And of course, as you know, the emperor, first of all, there was no emperor in the western part of the Roman Empire at this point. And also, even when there had been an emperor in the western part, let's say Diocletian or Constantine, he did not elect the Pope. So the Pope was separate from the political organization. So that means that in the Byzantine Empire there's a much closer connection between the church and the state. So there's a closer connection between the church and state in the Byzantine Empire. Those are our two major differences here. We have a different language, and we also have a different organization of the church, which means that the emperor is basically in charge of the church, which means that we have a closer connection between church and state here. One of the first Byzantine emperors is going to be one of the most famous ones, and his name is Justinian. And Justinian ruled for a long period of time, from 527 to 565. And this is of course CE. And he did a lot of really kind of remarkable things here. For one, he greatly expanded the Byzantine Empire. He was a very successful military leader, and really helped to expand the Byzantine Empire. So if we go back to this map here, especially these areas over here in the eastern part of the Byzantine Empire, when Justinian basically took power, the Byzantine Empire probably ended somewhere around here. So this whole area, almost a third of the Byzantine Empire, was added under Justinian. So he was a very successful military leader. The other thing that Justinian did was that he came up with something called the body of civil law. And this is something that it's tremendously important here. The body of civil law was basically a collection of all the laws that had been in place during the Roman Empire. And the reason why this is so important is because, of course, the western part of the Roman Empire goes into a sharp decline here during the Middle Ages, during the Dark Ages, and as we'll see here in the next couple of chapters, the vast majority of laws that had been used by Romans, laws that were very advanced and laws that basically our legal system is based on, were basically forgotten. And had not Justinian saved these laws by writing this book called The Body of Civil Law, most of these laws will probably have have become forgotten, and that would have been a very bad thing for the development of the legal system, not just in the Byzantine Empire but throughout the world, because most of these laws are going to be very influential for not just the Byzantine Empire but for other parts of the world as well. So the body of civil law consists of three parts. So here's the first part. It was called the Code, and this is basically about 5,000 laws. And it's basically just a collection of these laws that were invented and put into place during the Roman Empire. The second part was something called the Digest. And this is basically 50 of the most advanced legal scholars who interpreted all these laws. So if we put that up on the board here, 50. So not only did they have the laws themselves, they also had 50 of these scholars interpreting the laws so that everyone could understand exactly what they meant, how they should be applied, and how these laws function. So that was very important. And then the third part of the body of civil law was something called the New Laws. And the New Laws were all laws passed under Justinian. So he added to these laws that were part of the code by adding this third part, the New Laws, so that this would be a complete collection of the legal system in the Byzantine Empire. And again, the vast majority of our laws and the kind of the philosophical basis for our laws are taken from these three books here, these three books that made up the body of civil law. So the New Laws, the Digest, and the Code are tremendously important here. So Justinian did a lot of really good things. Again, he expanded the empire, and he came up with this, the body of civil law. He also improved the infrastructure. He improved the infrastructure. He spent a lot of money building roads, bridges. He improved the communications between different parts of the empire. And again, a very successful emperor that paved the way for some great advancement in the Byzantine society. The problem was that when Justinian died, we have a number or a series of rulers that are not quite up to par with Justinian. So the next few emperors that follow after Justinian, you really can't handle this large empire. So we have a number of poor rulers, and by poor we mean that they were not very good at ruling. It wasn't that they were poor economically, but they were just not very good at ruling. So a lot of these, especially the infrastructure that he had put in place, these rulers that came after him just simply could not handle. So the roads fell into disrepair, bridges fell apart and were not repaired, were not kept up. So a lot of these changes that Justinian had done, a lot of these really good things that he had put into place kind of disappeared very, very quickly. The other problem that these rulers have is that the territory was simply too large to control for them. So they had too much territory to control. And again, Justinian had been able to control this because he was such a good ruler, because he selected good people to be his governors out in the provinces, and he kept his people in good check. These several rulers that came after him do not do a very good job of this. So the Byzantine Empire pretty quickly here starts to kind of disintegrate, and they left the empire kind of vulnerable to attacks here. So again, Justinian gets things started here in a really, really good fashion, but then very, very quickly things start to go downhill. And what we'll do on the block period, Wednesday and Thursday, is that we'll look at some emperors that again reverse this trend, going from good under Justinian, bad under the few emperors that followed after him, and then again there are several emperors that come later, a couple of hundred years later, that kind of bring the Byzantine Empire back up to a good position again. So that's the content for this screencast. I hope all this made sense to you, and you should now move on to reading about Justinian and his wife Theodora, and you have to record a little video at the end of that as well. So again, hopefully this made sense, but if you have any questions, do let me know.